everyone, this mini lesson is about author's purpose and the rhetorical techniques, devices, or language that they're going to use in order to perpetuate or to further that purpose, right? If you remember in the previous classes, we talked about a purpose, the reason why the author's writing it. Are they writing to persuade us of something, to inform us of something, to clear something up? What is their reason behind writing the article? And when they're doing that, they use certain techniques or language that's going to achieve that purpose. If we ourselves set out and we have a purpose, we have to have a way that we achieve it, right? Same thing with authors. So let's talk about rhetorical techniques or appeals. The rhetorical techniques or appeals that I'd like you to focus on in terms of understanding rhetoric in this sense is ethos, pathos, and logos. These are modes of persuasion. Ethos is going to talk about credibility. That's when we're talking about being credible, we mean that you're trustworthy, right? That we can trust what you're saying. Pathos is going to talk about emotion, and logos is going to include some logic. These three together are all modes of persuasion. But I guarantee you all three will be in any article that you're able to find, especially since we're focusing on systemic discrimination. Let's look at them a little bit more closely. Pathos is the emotional one, right? This is where you get passion. The definition of it is the use of emotional appeal. So some examples might be heartwarming stories, personal experiences, humorous jokes, pitiful photographs, etc. So when I think of this, I think of those SPCA commercials that come on super late at night, right? And they have the pitiful photographs of the animals that make you feel really badly and want to donate. That's their purpose. That SPCA, the purpose of those commercials is to get you to donate, right? So they attack your heart, they pull on your heartstrings, right? So think of pathos easily as the path to one's heart. It's going to use some kind of emotion. Now remember, emotion doesn't have to be just sadness or happiness. It could be trying to incite anger in you. We're talking about systemic discrimination. A lot of times they're trying to anger the audience so that we'll stand up and do something to fight against this discrimination. So pathos can definitely be found when there's personal examples used, right? They tell you about somebody who directly was affected by the systemic discrimination. Logos, this is logic. This is going to be using your beautiful brain. So this is the use of a logical argument. So some examples are going to be facts, statistics, reasonable arguments, logical organization of information. You're 100% going to be able to find this in any article that we read about systemic discrimination. If an author is proving that this discrimination is system-wide, right? It's systematic or systemic, then they're going to be using facts and statistics. It's not enough to just point it out, though. Remember, you have to say, how did that help further the purpose? How did that help the reason why the author is doing this? So, specifically, you can identify the facts and statistics for sure, but then you need to hone in on why was it used and how do you think it furthered the purpose? And last but not least is ethos, where we're talking about ethics. This is the use of credibility and trust. So some examples here might be quotes from professionals, customer reviews if you were trying to sell something, celebrity endorsements as well, and personal qualifications. So for instance, in the article that we read from the New York Times, about systemic discrimination against those who are in wheelchairs, the author herself was in a wheelchair. So that was her personal qualification. The systemic discrimination affects her directly. So she is qualified to be able to talk about this. Maybe it's also somebody that's done a ton of research. Maybe they talk about that. That could be their ethos, right? Now, if they're giving us information and they're trying to get us to understand something about systemic discrimination, they want to be qualified in giving that information. So you can definitely find ethos within articles on systemic discrimination. So all three are rhetorical techniques and appeals, and all three can be found in any article that you read about systemic discrimination. The key isn't identifying it, though, like I said before. The key is being able to say, here it is, but this is how it helped the purpose. This is how it helped the reason why the author wrote it. So why did the author specifically insert that information there to help whatever further the purpose was? Let's talk about rhetorical language. So these are all linked to videos, and the Google Slides are available to you, of course. So these are all YouTube videos of a refresher on these. But rhetorical language is any really type of figurative language that an author uses to bring attention to something, right? But the four that I want you to focus on specifically are repetition, hyperbole, simile, and metaphor. Why do I want you to focus on those? Well, again, in order to earn a four, we need to be able to hone in on rhetorical language or devices that the author uses. So if we already go in with a focus of looking for repetition, hyperbole, simile, or metaphor, we're going to be more successful. But also, these are things that you're probably very familiar with, especially from poetry units in previous classes. Repetition. We know that's the author repeating something over and over. Why is the author repeating it? Right? Why is that standing out? Why is that being used? How is it helping them achieve their purpose? Hyperbole. When you're super hyper, you're amped up, right? Same thing with a hyperbole. It's an exaggeration. So, why would the author choose to exaggerate that specific word or phrase? Right? There has to be a reason that they're drawing attention to it. How is it helping their purpose? Simile and metaphor or comparison. Simile uses like or as, metaphor does not. They're comparing two unlike things. Why did the author use that to help their purpose? Maybe they're comparing them because you might be more familiar with whatever they're comparing it to. Maybe they're comparing it for a different reason. But it's up to you to not only, again, be able to identify the language, but more importantly, say, how did it help achieve the author's purpose overall? Again, please do not just identify it. You have to dig deeper and analyze how did it help further the author's purpose. That's the key here. Okay? Do that, and I promise you, you'll get a four. See you later.